Something came from Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore.
Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore. My name is Tom Gallagher, and today we're chatting with a smooth jazz pianist, Brian Simpson. All That Matters is Brian Simpson's 10th album, released on June 25th, 2021 on the Shanachie record label, and Brian is coming to the South Point at the National Harbor on July 31st, 2021 with a friend of the podcast, Art Sherrard Jr. The group is called 3 Alarm Fire, and besides Art and Brian, Julian Vaughn will be playing bass in that supergroup bill. Before we chat with Brian Simpson, let's listen to a track from the album, All That Matters. It's a soft touch. Simpson, welcome to Something Came from Baltimore.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited.
First off, I just want to say you're hitting 60 years old this year. You look fantastic. I feel that you may have some kind of fitness or diet regimen that you follow. Is there anything that we can learn from you?
Well, I got to give you credit because that is the first time anybody asked me that or assumed any of that stuff. Unfortunately, there's no regimen. I would just chalk it up to the fact that I stay super active. Aside from the pandemic, I spend half the week running through airports. So, and even when I'm performing and getting from the venue to the hotels, I'm just on my feet a lot as I work. So I guess I could just credit that. I think I have a high metabolism.
I mean, back in the day, a jazz artist, life expectancy was lucky if you were 50. So the fact that you were
absolutely,
I feel that, you know, the intelligence level of jazz artists is superior, that they're willing to really kind of think about their health. And in your case, you just got the looks here. So
well, you're way too kind to thank you.
Yeah, you got lucky. I feel like you're growing into an acting career where you could play Jeff Goldblum's younger brother. That's my thing.
Well, if I was an actor, unfortunately, yeah. And you know, Jeff actually plays jazz piano.
Yeah. Have you ever bumped into him?
I haven't yet. A friend of mine, another jazz piano player, actually was giving him lessons for a while.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. But yeah, well, okay. You know, actually, I'll be honest. With the latest CD, I was looking for the vibe for the photo shoot, and a friend of mine had say, "Hey, did you see? You kind of look like Jeff Goldblum. You check out this picture of him with a turtleneck." I'd never had any photos done with a turtleneck, so that was the inspiration. Was, believe it or not, was a Jeff Goldblum picture with a turtleneck, and so it actually is a reason for you to get that vibe, I think.
I'm not crazy. I asked you 2 off-the-wall questions right at the beginning.
Yeah.
What did you learn from the COVID-19 epidemic? Did you come away with some like aha moments?
The first aha moment is when all your gigs get canceled for an entire year, and you're kind of like, okay, I need to sit down and talk to my family and look, guys, gather around. We're going to have to tighten the belt and see how we're going to move forward. And luckily for me personally, I was able to make the most of it because I just signed a new deal, re-upped my deal with Shanachie Entertainment, my record company. So I had a budget to start a project, and I started in March. Basically, when this all happened, I was actually on the road. I was in Indonesia at a big jazz festival. Actually, one of the biggest in the world. It's called the Java Jazz Festival in Jakarta. And I had still had a couple more cities to go after that run. the beginning of March, and I was flying next to Australia to play in a club in Sydney, and then I was supposed to go to Tokyo. And I was hearing about this while I was in Asia, the virus, and by the time I got to Australia, I knew we were in trouble. When in Sydney, suddenly I was like, what? There's a toilet paper shortage in Sydney all of a sudden. I'm like, this is really weird. And then my show in Japan, I told them, look, I don't think this is going to happen. Let's just cancel it. I'm going to fly straight back to LA. And that was it. So everything changed at that point. And I just got started on this new project because there was nothing else for me to do. Yeah. And the takeaway though was just, the things that really mattered became very apparent. Your family, your friends, and you're hearing about people getting sick and dying. And I've got friends losing family members. So you really get close with your family. I kind of spent a lot more time talking to my family and my sister and brother in Illinois and my mom. So that all played a part in the music that I created from that point on.
Art Sherrard Jr. is a Maryland native. You have him with Julian Vaughn. How did you meet up with those two guys? And it seems like it's a one-off deal. Like, is this something that you would be willing to experience, down the road?
Absolutely. Although I kind of enjoy these kind of shows that are just going to happen one time. It's a one-time experience, and that makes them even more special for me, for the audience. It's like you may not see this particular configuration again of these artists. So I'm fine with that. Of course, I would love to work with those guys some more. Art is the one that put this together, in fact. I think Art along with the promoter. So that was his idea to do this. But I'm a big fan of both those guys, so I'm really looking forward to it.
What is your relationship with Dave Koz today? I'm not going to ask if you're friend or foe, but in your bio, you worked with him exclusively for years on his records. I went back and looked at his record tracks, and you're not listed on them, so I'm not sure. Thought I'd ask.
Oh, no, I was his music director for years. So with Dave, it was more the live concerts I did for 10, 15 years with him. This goes for any artist, including myself. The people you see on the records aren't necessarily the same people you see playing live with someone. In fact, oftentimes you don't see the guys that play, that do a lot of recording sessions. A lot of them don't even want to tour. So you often see completely different musicians doing that. Making a CD or record and playing live, just very different things. And sometimes you just want different musicians for those roles. So with Dave, it's always been a live thing. The only record that I've done a couple records that I played on. One was the live record from Tokyo that was actually nominated for a Grammy that year. So we're very good friends though.
You were playing live with Janet Jackson, and I wasn't sure what tour that was.
That was the Janet tour in 1995. I got that call. We rehearsed in LA for a month, and we flew to Australia and rehearsed another month with the set, and from then, we were out of the country for 3 straight months in Australia, Southeast Asia, and in Europe. It was an incredible time. I mean, incredible music and great people to work with. So that was definitely a fun experience.
She was in her prime. That was a masterpiece kind of album that she was touring on. You were young guys, so what was the vision of those large stadiums and the frantic pace and the size and scope of those concerts?
You know, honestly, it wasn't my first time playing for those kind of crowds. In fact, when I first moved to LA, you know, I grew up in Illinois, and I moved to Los Angeles after college in the mid '80s. And the first tour I got after an audition was Tina Marie, and her first touring dates were part of a tour package called the Budweiser Super Festival. And get a load of the other artists on the show with us were Gladys Knight, L.A. and Babyface, Freddie Jackson, and Earth, Wind and Fire. So these shows were for 10,000 plus size venues. And I was actually scared. I had never played for more than the number of people in an Italian wedding or something when I was gigging in Illinois. So I was literally afraid, like, how am I going to react in front of 15,000 people? But it was just incredible. So by the time I got with Janet, I wasn't freaked out, but I was amazed at the volume of the people. It was literally hard to hear your own music over the volume of people cheering at those concerts. It was really something else.
You had a lot of influences. So I was just curious, what is your favorite artist of all time? And I put in parentheses, I think Oscar Peterson, but I could be wrong.
Well, definitely for my formative years, Oscar Peterson was a massive influence. And sure, not just for me, for a whole lot of piano players. He's often the first guy that kind of sticks out. But I would say in the phase of me being a contemporary jazz artist, the one that affected me most as both a player and as a songwriter was Joe Sample. Particularly, he has an album called Ashes to Ashes, which is, to me, just the best example of a contemporary jazz piano record. And because of the way it's not just what Joe plays, it's all the instruments. Marcus Miller playing, just every Omar Hakim was playing drums, and every aspect of that record can be enjoyed no matter how many times I listen. And I try to implement some of those facets in my own music. Like I would like to feel that you could listen to one of my songs and just key in on the bass or just the guitar, and that alone can be a fulfilling musical experience. And to me, that's like the ultimate in any production, is where everything is firing, you know?
We can go right into the album. It's all that matters. It came out June 25th. First song we want to talk about is Mystical. About that a little, and how you got Najee to work with. I'm sure that's not the first time you met.
No, as a matter of fact, well, I don't know if you know about this, but I worked with George Duke for 10 years. I consider him more or less my mentor in this business. And one of the great benefits of working with George was the other musicians you would meet and work with via George. And one of those was Najee. And so we go back, over 30 years of friendship. And when I started this project, like I said, back in March, the first call I made was to a young producer named Nicholas Cole. Because as as you're well aware, I'm now in my ripe old age. I needed to get some the younger vibe on this, and I wasn't going to come from me, so I need to find somebody half my age or less. And Nicholas fit the bill. And we'd worked together before in the past. He's a really talented and creative arranger, writer, and keyboardist. So he sent me 4 ideas right away, and one of them I just felt would, as I progressed with working on writing a melody for the song, I realized quickly it's going to need another instrument, and flute came to mind. And of course, I thought, if I'm going to get a guest artist, I want someone with some heavyweight. And I called Najee, and he was more than happy to help out. And I just love what he did on it. I think it really elevated the song, and it was really nice interplay between the piano and the flute on that song.
Right now, All That Matters is my my number one, my go-to. I think it's a good way to close out the album. You want to talk about that a little?
Well, in my travels, I don't carry a band with me, generally speaking. I pick up musicians in the different cities that I'm performing in, and I had a gig about 3 or 4 years ago in Wichita, Kansas. And I needed normally I may fly in some musicians from Chicago or somewhere near, but the normal saxophone player I was using at the time wasn't available. So I went to Google and typed in jazz saxophone Wichita. And I came up with this name, Jim Pisano, who was on the faculty at Wichita State. In fact, I think he heads the jazz studies program there. And so I went to YouTube, listened to this guy, and like, he's a serious straight-ahead jazz musician. I'm thinking he is not going to want to play this smooth jazz, quote unquote. And but I was able to get in contact with him. And I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. And he was more than happy to come do the gig. Well, he played with me, and we had a fantastic time. He really enjoyed it, and I loved his playing. He's a technical monster on the tenor saxophone. So I just kept it in the back of my mind that someday I may want to get him on the record somehow. And so here was my chance to do this. So I, with this new project. So I contacted him, and we found a studio in Wichita where he would be able to go in and record. And I just listened on the phone while they were in the studio recording on this track. And that's how this happened. And I just love the kind of weight it adds to have more of a guy that plays in the traditional vein of jazz on basically a funky track like this, just lends some weight. And I kind of knew in my mind, I just wanted to let him play this chorus after chorus after chorus, which is what you hear ending the album. So I'm glad you like it.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's one of my favorites too.
what I'm waiting for, I am under the impression this is all you. Is there any other people on this song?
It's well, the voice is me, but that was co-written again with Nicholas Cole. Who those songs I did with him? There's 4 tracks that Nicholas did with me, and they're all, to me, have the more modern production sounds to them. But I knew I didn't only want to do that because I have people that are fans of me for different reasons and different styles, and I still wanted to give a variety. Like any project I strive for, the thing I learned back in music school when I was in college was unity, variety, and continuity, and try to keep those always in my mind at the end. So that was part of the variety was not just doing the modern production, but that one in particular, yeah, I love that synthesized bass and the more modern stuff you're going to hear. But I've got Alex Al playing bass on another 4 tracks. It is just fantastic. Like I said, I wanted a record where you could just, if you just wanted the key on one instrument, it doesn't just have to be the melody. You could listen to the bass, you could listen to the drums, and I think you get a satisfying musical experience from any of those. The drummer that kicked off that album, he also played on my very first CD back in 1995. His name is Michael White, and if for any of you fans of Frankie Beverly and Maze, Mike was the drummer with Maze for 30 years or something. So, and he's another dear old friend of mine. So, and honestly, modern music is made or broken on the sound of the drums to me. So I wanted to have these killing drum tracks, and so I went to Mike for that.
all that matters is after this pandemic is, community and family and realizing what's important. This music is soothing the soul, and it's just a welcome piece of music to have.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Brian Simpson, thank you very much for joining me today on Something Came from Baltimore.
All right, Tom. Thank you, buddy. Yeah. Oh, I want to mention I have another date in Baltimore.
Yeah, give it to me.
I am playing at the Great Jazz Club the Keystone Corner, September 8th.
You're booked all the way until next year. So.
Yeah, there's more coming in as we speak. So yes.
Yeah. So I'm glad you got your rest because you're going to be working hard for the next year.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, I appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Thank you very much. I want you to have
a
great day today.
You got it. You too. Thanks, you.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Something Came from Baltimore with our guest, Brian Simpson. If you got to this point and you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to this podcast, and then I'm asking you to share it with 5 friends who like music just as much as you do. We want to get the word out, and we want you all to be a part of that Be More Music scene.